It is the autumn of 1845. You aren't a criminal, but you have just been handed a life sentence without the possibility of parole. You are standing before the towering iron gates of the State Lunatic Asylum, a Gothic fortress of soot-stained stone and jagged spires designed to look like a palace from a distance, but a cage from within. The air here is heavy and stagnant. It doesn't smell like a place of healing. It smells like coal smoke, unwashed wool, and the sharp acidic sting of bleach used to scrub away the evidence of human despair from the cold masonry. Listen to the sound coming from the upper tiers of the building. It isn't the cinematic, high-pitched screaming you've been told to expect from Hollywood. It's worse. It's a low, rhythmic thumping of hundreds of palms hitting padded doors in unison, the synchronized heartbeat of the forgotten. Your crime for being here? In 1845, the bar for madness was terrifyingly low. Perhaps you suffered from religious enthusiasm or simple domestic trouble. Perhaps you had uterine derangement or the natural heavy fog of postpartum depression that a husband found inconvenient. Before the carriage leaves you here forever, I want you to look at your own life. If the year was 1845 and your eccentricities, your late-night anxieties, or your neurodivergence were judged by a Victorian doctor, would you be standing outside these gates with me, or would you be safely at home? Tell me the one habit you have today that would have gotten you committed back then in the comments. I'll be reading the most incriminating ones as we walk these halls. You are about to enter a world where your legal name is deleted from the public record and replaced by a 4-digit number stamped into the collar of a stiff linen smock. Your humanity is about to be stripped away, layer by layer, by the cold mechanical gears of Victorian moral treatment. Welcome to the warehouse of the forgotten. You are a 19th century asylum patient, and for you, there is no back door, and no one is coming to save you. Hit subscribe to enter the archive. The gates are closing behind you. The Victorian Asylum was never intended to be a hospital in the way we understand it today. It was a machine for order. This is the Kirkbride Plan, vast bat-wing stone structures designed to isolate the deviant in total, crushing silence. Each wing was a labyrinth of echoing hallways designed to separate the quietly mad from the violent. But as the years passed and the buildings reached double their capacity, the walls between sanity and chaos blurred into a single gray smudge. You spend 23 hours of every day in a cell measuring exactly 6 by 9 feet. The walls are lime-washed, a blinding sterile white intended to purify your fractured thoughts. But the damp cold of the unheated stone seeps through your thin shift and settles deep in your marrow. There is no furniture here to anchor you to reality, only a straw mattress that smells of rot and a heavy iron door with a single 6-inch viewing slit. You are a specimen behind glass, watched by eyes you can never see. When the silence fails to correct your spirit, the doctors turn to the mechanical devices of the Victorian era. The most feared among them is the Tranquilizing Chair, a heavy wooden throne designed by the father of American psychiatry. You are strapped into this chair for 12 hours at a time, your limbs bound by thick leather. A sensory deprivation hood, a black, light-proof box is locked over your head. You cannot see your surroundings. You can only hear the frantic, wet sound of your own hyperventilating breath. If the chair did not work, the Utica Crib awaited you.
Imagine a coffin made of heavy wooden slats with a hinged lid that locks from the outside. You are placed inside, and the cage is closed over you, leaving you in a space so small you cannot even sit up or turn over. You spend days in this wooden box, forced to live in your own filth and darkness. This wasn't medicine. It was a systematic, state-sanctioned destruction of the human ego. By the time a patient was released, they were often so traumatized they would never speak again.
For over a century, these institutions were praised as progressive havens for the vulnerable. But the 2026 archive has peeled back the soil of the potter's fields to reveal a darker logistical truth. Ground-penetrating radar used on the unmarked cemeteries surrounding these ruins has revealed thousands of nameless pine boxes stacked 3 deep. These weren't just patients who died of natural causes. They were the casualties of a system that prioritized storage over survival and silence over care. New forensic bone density scans performed in 2026 reveal a horrifying biological reality for those buried there. Over 60% of the long-term residents suffered from severe confinement scurvy and skeletal fractures consistent with 19th century iron restraints. Their teeth had fallen out, and their skeletons showed evidence of restraint fractures that never healed. They were living in a state of permanent malnutrition, their bodies literally cannibalizing themselves while they sat in their whitewashed cells waiting for a liberation that never came. But the most chilling 2026 discovery came from the chemical analysis of hair follicles found in preserved patient intake ledgers. Mass spectrometry reveals massive, lethal concentrations of mercury, bromide, and arsenic in the patient's systems. You weren't being restrained because you were violent. You were being systematically chemically lobotomized. The calmness the doctors bragged about in their reports was actually the lethargy of chronic heavy metal poisoning, masking the internal agony of the patient. The 2026 archive proves that the Victorian Asylum was actually a massive, state-funded experiment in sensory deprivation and chemical suppression. It was a factory of silence, designed to see how much a human mind could endure before the light simply flickered out in the darkness. We can now see the digital heat maps of the hot cells where the most difficult patients were kept, areas of the building where the stone walls are still stained with the chemical residue of the sedatives used to erase them from existence.
By the year 1890, these stone giants held over 400,000 souls in the United States alone. We like to think we've closed these heavy iron doors forever and moved into a more enlightened era of care. But the shadows of the Kirkbride walls still define how we view and treat the different in 2026. Every time society chooses to ignore suffering or attempts to medicate away every difficult human emotion, we are using the tools and philosophies that were perfected in these silent stone wards. We stand today on the literal unmarked graves of the people who were silenced so that modern psychiatry could find its footing in the dark. These were mothers, scholars, and children erased from history because they didn't fit the rigid Victorian mold of productivity. Their stories were buried with them, hidden under the tall grass of the asylum grounds for over 100 years. The legacy isn't the grand architecture, it is the silence of the archive that we are only now beginning to break. Now I am placing the saw of history in your hands. Imagine it is 1845. Your sister has been diagnosed with religious hysteria. You visit her and see her in the tranquilizing chair. She is whispering your name, begging for mercy. But the doctors warn you, if you take her home, the scandal will destroy your career, your marriage, and your children's future. You will all become outcasts, starving on the streets.
Her madness will be your family's ruin. Do you choose mercy, taking her home and accepting total social ruin? Or do you choose order, leaving her in the experts' hands to save the rest of your family? This isn't just a question, it's a reflection of who you are. Type your choice in the comments. I will be personally hearting the most courageous defenses of either side. If you want to see the 2026 evidence of the ghost ships, the floating prisons of the 1800s, click the video on your screen. The archive is closed.